What's good, you guys? Rucker here, aka James. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over our draft analysis in the GSC. This is our next entry into a semi-competitive draft league. And as we go into this, you'll see some things that are familiar and a little different. So we're going to hop right into this and see how things are actually supposed to be moving here. Okay, so first things first, we are no longer the Boston Blastoise, we are the Memphis Mole Traces. So that's the first thing. I love this new logo, I love the rebranding, and hopefully it brings us luck in this new season. Now the major changes, okay, first things first, the DTC has transformed, evolved, if you will, into the GSC. The GSC is set up in a way so that it's better for the growth of players in the low tier and in the highest of calibers. So the major changes that are in line from the DTC to the GSC is the main thing here is growth. It's not just about competition, it's about growth. There's 3 separate tiers: A League, also known as the Advanced League; B League, which is the Brave League, which your boy is in; C League, also known as the Crescent League, and the placement for these leagues is based on your previous turnout ranking. So if you did really well, or you were in the A League and you continue to do well, or if you're a top performer in whatever leagues you were in before, you generally stay in that league or you get promoted. Now, experience is a big thing here. If you've never been in a draft or you don't really know that much about Pokemon, you're probably going to be down in the C tier. And also the knowledge of team comps and building, which comes with experience, but also comes with a strategic form of thinking. So it's not just about slapping a set together and being like, yeah, this set runs well in ladder, so I'm going to use it in draft. It's not how draft works. Draft and ladder are completely different. And for that reason, we've had people in the past who have faltered, have not lived up to their potential because they were too strapped to what they always use in ladder. Now, a breakdown of these leagues: the A League is where the best of the best in the GSC battle. They battle out to show who is the best overall that season in all of the GSC. The B League is where those who have potential hone their skills, show what they can do, and possibly earn a promotion to the A League to compete against the best. But those who falter in the B League, whether they were just promoted from the C League or they're just having a really bad run, might get dropped down to the C League for a less competitive, more learning-based version of a draft league. Now, it's still competitive. You're still trying to win, but it's more centered on learning, getting used to the format, learning the ins and outs of not just team building, but also drafting and all the things that happen with that. Now, the C League is new to the is people who are new to the format. They're new to Pokemon competition in general, or they're new to Pokemon. This is where they'll learn about like drafting, the ins and outs of that, team building, how that works, how to build a team in opposition to what your opponent's going to have or has in their roster already, and also finding their style of play. A lot of people, including myself, still don't have a perfected style of play that they love. There are a lot of things that I find that I love with certain mons, but hate with others. So you're probably never going to see Rucker play Stall because Rucker hates Stall. Now, Rucker's done talking about Rucker in the third person. So we're going to move right into this. This is the GSC B League, Brave League breakdown. Here are the rules. Here's where we play. Here's how we play. and everything that breaks down is. Now, the biggest rule for drafting is each team has to have 120 points, and you have to have exactly 11 mods. No more, no less. So you don't have to use all 120 of your points, but you do have to have 11 mods. Battles take place in sports. We're going to be battling in the DLC2 draft format, so there's no legacy moves. Certain leaked movesets from the second DLC are not currently out yet, so we are not allowed to use them. You can't hide battles, because that's dickish. Smoke gun clauses like Moody and stuff like that aren't allowed. No Dynamaxing, G-Maxing, or Z moves this time around. All Pokemon have to be level 100. I don't know what the advantage is necessarily of having a Pokemon not at 100, but I'm assuming there probably is one that has. There is probably one to be found there. You can baton pass, but you can't pass stats or sub. Evasion boosting moves and items. King's Rock, Quick Claw, and 100% accuracy lowering moves are banned. Okay, so things like Sand Attack you can't use. King's Rock is a flinching machine that you can put on top of other moves, and unfortunately it seems to give too much of an advantage in the Draft League format. Now, things like Sand Veil and Snow Cloak, which are abilities innate to Pokemon, but also require weather to use, are allowed. Transactions are permanent after the next week comes around. Each person gets 4 free agency pickups and 5 trades with other players. There was a grace period after the draft where people were allowed to make 4 changes to their team. But that draft window has since closed and week 1 has started. The extensions, you have to ask an admin for an extension. If you're forfeiting, you lose how many mons your opponent still has. So if you quit and they still have 6, you're not actually just losing 6 points to your record, you're losing 9 points. If both people fail to schedule a game, you both lose 3 points, and there's no penalty for forfeiting after 130 turns. It's a long time to play, and it can go to a tie if both players agree after 130 turns, but will result in a 0-0 for the record of that week. Now, players who come in will have 24 hours to change out the draft in whatever mons are open in their tier, and be free to do whatever they need to. And then after that, they have the same amount of free agency and trades that any other player would starting at that point. We're going to hop right into my draft. Now, in my draft, I got sniped a lot. My plan changed probably 742 billion times in the time it took for the first mon to get drafted and the last mon to get drafted. I wasn't in the greatest place for the draft. I think I was 8 or 9. So I didn't have a particularly great advantage in picking mons. A lot of the mons that were the top tier were already gone by the time it was my turn to pick. So I took Tornadus Therian. Now, it fit into my plan well that I originally had, which was going to be a semi-bulky smart offense with sand, but you'll see as time went on that changed. The pros of Torn T is that it's fast, got 121 speed. That's a fast mon. It's extremely versatile. Its special attack and physical attack aren't that far apart. It can pivot. Biggest cons to Tornadus T is that it's got weaknesses to some common move typings, hence rock or electric, or and it's also got a stealth rock's weakness, which means swapping it in and out and using its ability regenerator a little harder depending on how it's built. The second mon in the draft is Mega Sableye. The pros on this far exceed the cons. The basic abilities of Prankster in its regular form, which in this draft, you do not have to mega as soon as the mon comes in. You can take your time or do whatever you want and never mega at all, but you must carry the Mega Stone. The mega ability, which is Magic Bounce, tosses back hazards and things like that. It's also a spin blocker, with it being ghost typing. It's got 3 immunities. It's immune to fighting, it's immune to normal, and it's immune to psychic because it is a ghost dark type. So that is fantastic. It only has 1 weakness, which unfortunately is fairy. It's got super high defenses. Now the cons for this is it's slow, and it has a low HP stat. It's faster in its base form, and we will see how well we can use this mon throughout the weeks. Okay, the third mon is Ferrothorn. Now, Ferrothorn is a fantastic mon in its own right. It's super tanky. It only has 2 weaknesses. The Iron Barb's ability, which means if an opponent makes contact with me, they take additional damage. It's got a decent move pool. It's got a good move pool. It has access to hazards, and it's got great resistances. The problems with Ferrothorn is it's slow. I think its base speed is 20. And it's also 4 times weak to 1 of its 2 weaknesses, which is fire type. Rotom Mow. I was hesitant to pick this up at first, but I realized that I really wanted a variation of Rotom, and Heat and Wash were gone way earlier than I drafted this. Just because these mons show up in this order does not mean that's the order in which I drafted them. Some of these mons were picked up through the grace period and whatnot. I did not want Rotom Fan, and I did not want Rotom Chill, the Rotom Freeze, whatever it is, due to overlapping typings that I already had and didn't want any issues with. But the pros to Rotom Mow is its ability, which is Levitate, which makes me immune to ground types except in the case of Mold Breaker. It's got good defenses, both special and regular. It's got great special attack. Not great, it's got good special attack. It's got Switch Initiative, and it's a defogger. It's got some common weaknesses in fire and in rock. Not rock. Fire and ice. Yeah. It's got low HP, and it's got 4 to 5 weaknesses depending on if something has Mold Breaker or not. So something like Mold Breaker Excadrill kind of pushes Rotom Mow in, because it has access to many things that can definitely take Rotom out. Licky Licky. Originally, when I drafted it, I thought I was going to regret it. I didn't think that I was going to keep it. I immediately thought for 8 points, I'm probably going to toss it back and get something different. But as the draft went on, I realized how good it was and the position I was in. I was never going to give this up by the time it hit the later picks. The pros for this, it's got helpful abilities in Own Tempo, Oblivious, and Cloud9. Own Tempo and Oblivious make it immune to things in their own set. Own Tempo is immune to confusion, and Oblivious is immune to like infatuation and things like that. And also both of those abilities make it immune to intimidate, which is good because this is, when this attacks, it's mainly a physical attacker. And Cloud9 diminishes weather, which there was a lot of weather drafted this season. It's got clerical abilities in both healing status and HP, which is super helpful depending on the weak matchup I have. It's got okay defenses, but great HP. It's got great coverage. It's only got 1 weakness, which is fighting. The con for this, it's slow. You're going to find that I don't really like the fact that certain mons are slow, but it's a fat, bulky cleric mon, so it's kind of supposed to be slow. I think if this had more speed, it'd be a broken mon. So on to the next member of the draft, which is Tentacruel. Pros on Tentacruel kind of speak for itself. It's a spinner, especially bulky with decent HP. It's got great stabs. It's got decent speed. It's a lot faster than people normally think it is, and it's got one major con for me, which is the ground weakness. lot of my team really doesn't like EQ. I do have some immunities in the draft, so hopefully I can play around the weaknesses that I do have and make things work really well. Cinderace. This thing is fantastic. It's fast. It has court change, which if you don't know, allows me to swap any hazards on my side and my opponent's side around. So if they have no hazards and I have hazards stacked upon me, I can just swap it, and then now they have hazards and I have none. It has switch initiative in U-turn. It's got a great move pool with tons and tons of coverage for anything that I might need it for. And it's got decent attack stat as well. The cons, it's Scotch on defense. It's low. It's going to take 1 or 2 hits and it's going to be gone, so I have to play really careful with Cinderace. And no Libero, not really a con because I knew that when I was drafting it. It's just kind of a downer. Libero makes this thing an absolute monster, changes its typing before it hits and then hits everything as a stab, I think, so, or just after. So that's a phenomenal ability, but I am stuck with Blaze, which means if I get below 33% HP, those fire stabs are really going to hurt. The next member I drafted was a Zelf. Now, I needed something that was immune to ground, but I also noticed that I was lacking a lot of offensive potential. I was originally looking to get Uxie or the other of this trio, and I saw that they all had Levitate, which was fantastic. I also saw that this was the fastest of the 3, and I was like, well, that's good. I need something that's fast. It can set up hazards if I want it to, and it's a versatile attacker. It can attack both in physical and special. It's got some common weaknesses, though, in Bug and Dark, so I kind of have to watch out for U-turn and Knockoff. But other than that, this thing can hit like a truck. Like I said, it can be special or physical. And it's got decent HP, so I'd probably be able to take a hit or 2, depending on what's coming at me. And I'm hoping that a Zelf puts in the work this season. This pick was left at the table for a real long time. I ended up swapping out Tapu Bulu because it didn't fit well with the team I had. And I needed the points. Tapu Bulu was expensive, so I needed the points. And with it, I got Grimmsnarl, which was way less points. It's got great abilities in Prankster and Frisk. It's got 2 immunities in both Dragon and Psychic. It's got a huge move pool. I was looking through this and I was astonished. This thing is super versatile, and I don't really have to worry about being let down with the coverage that this thing has. I can basically change it a lot depending on what my opponent has for mons. So that's super helpful. Also, backpedaling just a tiny bit. There's no legacy moves, so things like hidden power of any of those types, no mons can use that. There's no return. There's a bunch of stuff that's not currently allowed because it's not in the game for Pokemon in Gen 8, so they're not allowed here. So without having hidden power, it kind of backed off a lot of Mon's potentials, but Grimmsnarl was not one of them. The cons, it's slow. I think its speed is under, it's at 60 or under, 60 or 50 I think, and its defenses aren't great, which hopefully can be patched up with either moves such as screens or other things that are given by other mons through different abilities and such. Now onto one of my relatively late picks, but I do think this thing has potential. I didn't realize how much potential Gallade actually had until I started looking over its move pool. Humongous move pool. It's got a really good attack. I think it's base 120 or 115. It's got really good special defense, so if I'm not getting hit with something that's going to roast me in the special defense department, I should be good. It's got steadfast where it can't be flinched, or if it gets flinched, I think it can't be flinched, but if it gets flinched, it gets +1 speed, I'm not sure. And then justified, which means if I get hit with a dark type move, my attack increases by 1 stage, which could come in handy later on. The cons of it is its low versatility. I said it had a huge move pool, but to be honest, this thing is basically an attacker. It doesn't really have a lot to do with anything else but an offensive mon. And in being an offensive mon, it lacks the ability to pivot as well, which is unfortunate, but hey. It's really cheap. I think it was 6 points. It's really cheap, and for that, it's really good. Now on to my last pick. Now, I was low on points, didn't know what else to use. I have a Cradilly in my lock, and I see how annoying it is to deal with that. I've also played against a Leap in another league and realized how cancerously, toxically stally it is. It's a great Eviolite user. It's got Stealth Rocks. The only thing is it's not versatile, and opponents can generally predict what you're going to use it for. It's generally to isolate a mon and take that one individual mon out in a very slow, arduous, and painful process. So with that said, that rounds out my draft for Season 1 of the GSC. I want to say thank you guys for coming out. Wish me luck. Peace out for now.